Hey guys, thanks for dropping by and checking out my video for week 3. Starting a little late getting this up, and for any background noise you may be hearing right now, I'm on my break at work and trying to get this video situated. Um, okay, first of all, we're going to start with the header component. As you can see here is the screenshot of the one that I chose, and here's how I tried to mark it up as close as possible. I know I'm a little off with maybe the sizing of the image, which I'm going to probably adjust for the week 4 changes and everything, and get a little bit more updated over here with the JoinFlow Pro login and the search box that I'm trying to get situated. But you know, for still being fairly new to CSS and coding and everything, hopefully I got a little farther than I was hoping on this. So if I pull up the CSS, um, let's pull up Text Wrangler and component 1. Uh, okay, I have my list items, which I here in the HTML. Well, I'll just go. I have a list items which are here: the home videos, me, swimmers, contacts, which I made in line to display in line so that they could march across. And then I have a ID of what is this upper here that I put in for this div for Join Flow Pro and login. Up here, the Join Flow Pro login, I was having a hard time up front trying to get that coding did, so I wrapped it in a div and gave it the ID of upper, and here for just basically floated it right. Whether that was the right way to go or not, I'm not sure because it's really far to the right. I might change that with more of um, specified positioning rather than just floating it right. Um, so then I have the nav, which is down here in the HTML. This would be the home links, videos, meets, swimmers, contacts, etc. In this unordered list. Back here in the CSS, just basically gave it the background color of the blue that you see here that I tried to match as closely as I could to what you see here. Looks like I probably need to give the text a little more padding, which I'll fix in a little bit. You know, it looks a little narrow. Um, so, moving forward, I have a class here of upper 2, which is where's upper 2? Okay. The div I have is with an ID of upper, and then I have the unordered list with an ID of upper 2, so I could work on the list items with Join Flow Pro and the login link here because they're both anchor tags. So with that, I changed the color to white for the background, and then the padding gave it about 10 pixels to try to split Flow Pro and Login apart from each other. I probably need to give it a little more margin as well, or adjusting for this search bar, which I'll fix a little later. The lower class that I have here is again for this unordered list for the home, videos, me, swimmers, contacts, etc. And the way I did that was I gave it the background color of that I gave it, and then some padding of 10 pixels to try to separate it. Probably need to give it a little more padding than that, or maybe some more margin. I don't know. We'll tweak that out. I know I've got a lot more IDs here than necessary, so going into week 4, I'm probably going to try to correct those a little bit more and make it less code bloated, if you may. But this was the best way at the time that I was able to try to get as close to this look as possible. The biggest thing I want to try to fix moving forward is this here, this text box with the search icon. So, okay, moving on to component 2, this CTA. This one I'm still working on. I tried to get as much as I could up. The biggest issue I'm having right now is trying to style this box. So moving forward over to that component, if I open here. The background image, as you see, is not the original, is what I found, because I could not find this background image, and I didn't really know how to take it in Photoshop and subtract everything out and not. So I switched out background images. It's a little blurry. I'm trying to find out how to make that a little more clear. I photoshopped these the icon as best as I could that you see these three squares here. I tried to Photoshop and got that image in there. I know I need to try to clean that up a little bit. The taxi that I have here is, I believe, a H1 heading or H1 tag. So if I open up the code, that would be, yes, an H1, and then the CSS for the H1. If I go up to here, I give it the color of yellow, position it absolutely, and give it some top position, 10 pixels in the right, the width and the height, to try to position it as closely as I could in the center of that as possible. Back here, the HTML, this is how I got the background image to stretch across from the whole screen with the different covers for different web browsers. This is something I got offline, and I don't know if it's exactly the most concise way or semantic way to do it, but it worked for the time being, and if you guys can give me any suggestions, I'll try to clean that up if it's not correct. Alright, here the call us 24 hours, that was a little different in the respect that I had to do call us as an H2, and then I did a paragraph with an ID of hours for 24 hours. So I separated that, and then of course in the CSS for the H2, gave it a margin of 50 pixels, top, font family, font style, font size, and then the color of, excuse me, I believe that's, what is that, white or a type of gray. And then down towards the 24 hours, that ID, again, font family, font style, and give it that kind of light blue color that it has. I want to try to adjust the spacing a little bit more in between the us and the 24. As you see, they're kind of overlapping each other a bit there. So the 800 number that I have here is an H3, and in the CSS, I should have, here we go, gave that a font family, style, size, color, and gave it a bold font weight to try to match as closely as possible to this. I know it's still a little off, but that's where I'm at. And then here, as you can see, if you can barely see, I've got the text for, you know, for the results and the full name, the email, phone, etc. But the biggest issue I'm having right now with that is trying to style it in this form, which you know, Professor Bloom hopefully can help me a bit, or if you guys have any suggestions, I am more than open to them, so I can try to get this formatted a little bit better. Okay, let's see, what do we got next? I think that's it for the CSS on that. Okay, and yes, I know this says header. I need to, again, correct some of this coding with the labeling and everything, but that's where I'm at in that regard for that component. If I move forward to component 3, the feature, this one came a little bit more, not easy, but doable than the last component. If I open that up, as you can see it, how it looks here, I came pretty close, I think, opening it up in this regard. And it was a little tricky, especially with the images, and I don't even know if it's right or not. So you can see the component here. Gave it the background color of the gray that you see there, and the colors for the text for the lorem ipsum, the dolores sit emet. What I did with these pictures here was I actually took a screenshot of these, which were actually kind of square with some that weren't cropped in the background. But then I used that one tactic that Professor Bloom was showing in the videos to give the circle, make them circular by giving them a radius in the CSS. So if I go down here to component 3 and open up the CSS, well, here's the component, as you can see here, I have the nav, the unordered list with the ID, the image, H2, the paragraphs, etc. And that's how that kind of flows throughout that and how it's stacked. Now, the two things I ran into that were a little time consuming was, first of all, again, if you look, well, let me just go through from the top. The body, gave it the background color that you see here, the gray. The ID of 1, that's up here, this Delore upsit, and I gave it the position absolute, top 130 pixels right, 1,000 width and height, and I had to play with that throughout this code right here. I had to play with that throughout each ID that I gave. I gave it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, and had to play with that in order to position it properly without just using margin and padding. Whether that was correct or not, I don't know if I am or not. Any advice would be greatly appreciated. So, and then we have the ID of 1, which here is the unordered list here, and I gave it the color of red, which gave that red color there. Okay, and then here's 2, position absolute, got this all situated, and again the H2 gave that the color of the blue that you see. 3, positioned it again, gave that the H2 with the color of yellow that you see here. Okay, 4, positioned it and gave it the color for the H2 of green that you see there. Now, the unordered list, I gave it a bottom margin of 40 pixels to kind of spread it out a bit. Okay, and then I gave IDs to these images in the HTML and gave it a border radius of 50%, positioned it absolute, and moved it right 210 pixels. And that worked out quite well for those two. And then for the next one, just really copying the code and moving it right 210 pixels from the text. And that's pretty much how that got put together. So whether it was wrong or not, or if I can change it up a bit with using less IDs, that's probably what I want to work on more for the week 4 project. So, okay. Moving down, here is the the About Us page. If I go back, the way I have it looking compared to this is right here. Now I have, of course, less paragraph text, but you know, basically what I did here with the code was here's the HTML, here's the CSS. I gave, go to the top, this is the H1, the About Us. I gave that the styling for the text to give it that blue color and the margin, as well as the font family size, etc. The H2 would be in here. That would be the down here, the Lorem Ipsum Delore Citamet. Okay, and gave that the styling here for the color to give it that blue color. And then I have an ID of I took a screenshot of the DeWalt image and gave it a screenshot, an ID of the DeWalt, positioned it with the positioning properties you see here. Same thing for the Makita drill, same thing for the Black & Decker drill. Okay, the paragraph here, I gave it basically the color of gray, and that's how that component was put together. Alright, let's move to component 5. Down here, the blog, which is a little more complicated to put together in format, but nonetheless, let's go back here and see how close I got to this as possible. That's how that looks, and then the way I styled it looks a little bit more like this. Now it's not exactly as up to date, but I kind of, you know, I want to tweak this out a little bit more. First thing I'm going to do is try again. What's hot on FlowSwimming, that's a darker purple than the blue I have here. I'm going to try to get that changed out to more blue. Give it a little more padding, so it's, you know, and then try to decrease the margin between, you know, I got a lot of margin here between the bottom of this and then the top of these images here for the videos. So what we're going to do is take, let's pull up the code, and hold on a second. All right, sorry about that. Where is this? Component 5, I believe, correct? Yes. Okay. Got my article, my H1, which is what's hot on flow swimming, and then I have each one of these as a section with an ID. Whether that's bloaty, I'm not sure. I'm assuming it is, and I'll try to see if I can clean that up a bit later on. But for what I tried to do at the time, let's pull up the CSS. The H1 up here, what's hot on flow swimming, gave it the color, the styling, the weight, margin. As you see, wait, am I in the right? Excuse me, I'm sorry. 5. What's hot on flow swimming? 5. H1. Okay, where's my H1 styling? Okay, got my H1 styling there. So I probably need to change out this color a little bit more, and like I said, give it. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm not looking at the right one. And give it a little more comparative padding, which I could probably do that right now if I wanted to. Let me see. Let's give it some padding, 10 pixels. Save it. Refresh. Yeah, it looks a little better. You know, yeah, a little thicker. Yeah. Okay. Style of that font is a little different. I know it's all caps like you see here comparatively, but yeah. Let me go back down here to, okay, the ID of 1 that we have here is from this section, which is the first, we have the image. I used the picture of Ryan Lochte, and of course we have Lorem Ipsum for the paragraph, and then the closing of the section title there. But what we're going to do, or what I did, is again, use these positioning properties to basically position each one of these 16 photos, okay, with the IDs, and that's how I worked throughout the whole process to give it that positioning. And of course that gives you what you see here, because originally they were all stacked vertically instead of horizontally. I think that was the best way I could do it, to make that kind of rows and columns section versus doing a table. That I thought about doing a table, but that I think is a little more outdated, and that looked a little more complex to figure out. So that's where I'm at in that process there for the week 3 submission. Okay. Going down to component 6, the contact us form. Here we go with that. And we see it here, and I think I came close because we got here again. I need to change this color to a little bit darker purple, which I'll do, and I could probably give it a little more padding right now in the CSS. So here's the HTML component, the aside, contact us, the H1, and the H1 should be up here. Okay, we'll give that padding of 10 pixels. Save it. Okay, that thickens it a bit, and I'll probably adjust the margin and padding a bit, since this needs a little more space now from here to here, and I could probably maybe even go a little less padding. I'll adjust that as we move along. The tricky part was trying to put in the input fields that you see here. I got some code for drawing rectangles. Whether I styled them right for positioning or not, well, that padding kind of shifted that a bit. But anyways, I'll readjust those, but I'll show you how I set that up originally. Was down here. I gave in the HTML the position that I made. Where are we? Let's see, paragraph, email, Okay, rectangle 1 for up here. Sorry, I'm a little confused a little lost. Okay, I got the name for the paragraph. I got the div here for the rectangle code. Okay, that's what I did. Got the div for the rectangle here, then I got the paragraph for the email, then another div for that rectangle, and that's how I set that up all the way through the body. Now moving into the CSS, I set it with these properties: the background, the border, position, right, top, and that's how I got this rectangle positioned here, which I will change the positioning in a little bit after I adjust the margin and color and padding up here to look a little bit more parallel to and centered as this is. So that's pretty much how I got that one done. And if I skim down through here to what do I got? The paragraph, margin, top. Okay, yeah, these paragraphs that I styled, the email and everything, it's how I adjusted that, was gave it some margin and font weight and make it bold. And finally down here with the form, which you'll see in the HTML, is this submit button, and basically positioned that as well with that code in that regard. Whether it was the best way to do it or not, I'm not sure. Any advice would be greatly appreciated. Okay, component 7, the login registration. This is a little more tricky. You know, it's not as simplified as the other form I did, and as close as I got to that, and probably need a little more work on. Yeah, it's down here. I still need to work on this one a little bit more for week 3. Got the login or sign up, probably got too much margin and padding here, but I also have this X, as you can see, to close up here, which is formatted here in the color. I probably need some help trying to change that. Right now I think that's a button, and I think this is more of an image that is styled with a function. I'll try to change that up in a bit. The use your FlowSwimming account to log in. As you can see, I got that here. It's a little darker than what they have here. I'll try to make that a little more lighter gray in color. And then the username and email address, I have that here. They're probably give that a little more margin and padding to space it out from the rectangles there. Forgot password. I'm debating whether I should float this right, but I'm afraid if I do, it's going to make it go all the way over here. So I'll probably use that relative position or absolute positioning stuff to make this move back over to the right, if that's the right way to do that. The remember next time, the one thing I'm having trouble with is this checkbox. I mean, I'll probably, for aesthetics purposes, maybe do a screenshot of this checkbox and just put it in image-wise when I make the corrections to fit next here. And then, of course, I have the login button, which I want to try to style a little differently rather than the one you just have here. Code-wise, how this all looks is here's the CSS. I got the top, ID, background color of gray, padding 10 pixels margin. I'm going to try to got this overlapping here, the login or the sign up. I'll try to space that out a little later. Got the button positioning, the paragraphs, which would be the username, the password, gave that some margin and font size, and then a couple paragraphs with different IDs, which I believe the paragraph here that I have is regarding this one with the font size of 20 pixels. Am I correct on that? Or that might be up here with the login. But the paragraph 1 ID is coming from let me try to find that one. Yeah, the login. Okay, and then the paragraph 2 is the anchor link with the or sign up here. Moving into the code, gave that the font weight and the font size. And then here's the position for the right and top for paragraph 2. If I adjust that, well, I might be able to do that now. Let me see. It's right 1275. If I go let's say 1150. Let's see what that does. Save, refresh. Oh, that's too far to the right. Okay. So if I readjust that, let's make that maybe 1225 pixels. Save, refresh. It's closer. And I'll leave that for now. I'll adjust that a little bit later to try to get that closer and whatnot. That's as far as I got with that component. I know it needs a little more work. Any help, suggestions would be greatly appreciated. Okay, the footer. I'm a little stuck on this one because firstly, I think what I'm stuck on is the buttons here and then how I'm formatting everything else. Here's how it's supposed to look minus if I take the template monster add out, it looks yeah, like that. I got this bike store. This was a screenshot image that I took and put into the code from, sorry, let me go back. That's the bike store for the footer, and for the footer down here, let's open it up. And okay, here's the bike store. I did a screenshot of that image and have that here. Probably needs to be formatted a little bit different. I have the gray background color that you see here, the lorem ipsum dolor. Again, I'm going to try to make that smaller with the text and make that gray as well. Here, this is nothing more than a screenshot, honestly, of the Facebook, Twitter, and RSS feed that you see here, and I just put that image in. I'm still trying to figure out a little bit more how to make these links and style them. I think I figured that out on component 10, and I'll take some of that code and see if I can readjust that here for that. The other thing I'm trying to do and had a hard time trying to figure out was spacing for these links. I'm probably going to have to use that absolute positioning and figure that out that way, which I'll try in a little bit to correct for week 4. Here's the text down here for, the bike store is proudly owned. I'm probably going to have to put in a box there or a border, and I'll size down that. Text, give it that gray color, and give a little bit more padding in that regard. And then contact us here. I'm not exactly sure how I'm going to get. I tried thinking through how I could get this button to work in style. I'll try to tweak that out a little bit more for week 4. And then this upward arrow I was a little confused on. I might just do an image and do like I did on the component 3 where I do the radius and give it that circular fashion. So I apologize that that one is a little lacking. That's as far as I got in that regard from when I was working on this. Again, as I move forward through these components, it got a little harder for me. This pop-up right here, if I go back to what we have going on here, not even close. I know I've got this image really blown up, and excuse me, got my Skype on. I want to try to figure out how to narrow that image so it still stretches across the background, but yet doesn't take up the full screen. I don't know if that's a Photoshop thing that I have to do, or if that's something I can do more with the CSS. But for the code, again, I stretched that one across. I think this is 8, component 8, with the HTML and CSS. What component is this? Is this 8 or 9? Let me see. Component 8, bike store, no, 9. Here we go. I have the HTML in here, stretching that out across. I've got all the text here that I'm trying to imitate from subscribe to our newsletter, Non-Alcoholic, and then the button link that you have here for closing out. Basically, I was a little stuck on how to get that formatted because I was still stuck on trying to figure out how to get this image done, which again, if Professor Bloom or you guys can help me out, be greatly appreciated. So that's where I'm a little stuck currently on that, and where I will update those changes moving forward. Okay, let me see here, down to component 10, the news article. Let's go from top to bottom. Got the video feed there and how that all looks. And where I'm currently at in that regard is over here. When I go back, I have this news article here. And
Chad, how are you seeing everything on the computer?
And what I have going on with that is you see all this white space up here, but really that's because this is the video feature that I added without without the image that you see there. Down here, the border, 5 followers, Ryan Lochte, how I tried to build that out, not well. I got the link here, I got the border. I'm going to try to style that a little bit more with color. Right now it's floating right, and right now the link is floating right in the text, which is why it's far over there. I'm going to try to maybe do absolute positioning with that, and then try to format that button a little later. And you guys, if you have any tips, advice on formatting buttons to change it more aesthetically with CSS, that'd be greatly appreciated, because that was one of the things I'm still a little stuck on. Here, the chalks, the heading that you have here, I have here formatted in that way. I'm going to try to, again, maybe, I don't want to put a break in the code, a BR tag to break that paragraph, so I'll try to bolden this a little more and get the swimmer and Olympic to separate the way that they were doing. I was just a little stuck on how to do that in that regard. By Chris Chavez at FloTrack Swimming, how you see that there. Gave it some margin and padding to split it up a bit. And I believe I have the hyperlinks in there. Yeah, Chavez FloTrack. That's not too badly done. The Twitter, what I did here was I took the image and formatted it into a link, and that is done down here. If you find the image for Twitter, some of this stuff I commented out from before that wasn't working code-wise, so I apologize for that in terms of code bloat. Down, where is it? Tweet. Excuse me. Tweet, where is it? Please give me a moment to find that photo. Chris. Okay, here's the image. Again, it's styled in the code as a link to Twitter. You got the image installed there, and the settings for its width and height. And as for it being styled, I don't even really think I had to style that all that much, if at all. Let me see here. That is that's an anchor tag. I don't even think I have any styling for that in here with the anchor tag. So that's how that works right now. Looking at it, how it's here, again, I got the Twitter, and I got to position it better with the email and the embed. Again, I'll probably try to use absolute positioning and get that going. Again, my battery's getting low here at 10%, so I'll try to wrap this up as quick as I can. Down here, Ryan Lochte chats with Christopher Chavez. That's all found here. They have a border here. I did that. I'm going to try to get this text positioned better and a little more margin and padding. And down here, I also have the line for the login with FloSwimming or the comment, or to comment. I'm going to change that more to that peach color that you see right now. I think it's a gray, and that's where I have that situated for right now. So I do apologize that these last few components, as well as the taxi component, is off and needs a little more work, but it's kind of as best as I could figure out off the top of my head when I was doing this, and any input or feedback from Professor Bloom or from you guys, my classmates, would be greatly appreciated moving forward into week 3. All right, thanks again. Appreciate your time, and talk with you guys soon.